Journal entry for January, February, March. March 19th, 2026. I'm going to write something down real quick. I forgot. Something else I forgot. I really don't like that light back there. Okay, so something bad happened today, but God's going to use everything for good, so I'm just going to start at the beginning. I got up, I biked to the soup kitchen. It was cold in my house. I had purchased an electric throw blanket. They are more expensive than they used to be, but even though it was still uncomfortable and still cold, it made it much more comfortable than the night before. So this electric blanket I got was like $30, and then the twin size one was like $55, and then there was a full size, and that was like $80 or $90. These were very expensive. I got the throw, which is the right size for my couch anyways, but it's just a little too short. So I almost wish it was more narrow, but longer. But no, anyways, when you turn it on, it heats, but it's not that hot. It's kind of warm. It's warm enough, but it shuts off after 4 hours. So I would keep waking up, and then I have to press the button again. It was so cold it would wake me up. But anyways, as soon as I found a solution that made it tolerable to where I could get some sleep, then I was cursed again at the soup kitchen as one of the volunteers there. I can tell when people have their demons, whether they're enemies or good people that do a bad thing, but then they spoke over it becoming 60 degrees today because I had 2 coats on. So anyways, as soon as I get a solution, then they get rid of it. Probably because they don't want to be cold. But anyways, I went to the soup kitchen, and I missed the verse. I have not been showing up exactly at 11:30. I've been showing up later. Because really, I wanted more sleep. My sleep was all broken up. And I'm worried about my little dog. I know God will take care of everything. That's true. But she gets cold and she's uncomfortable. So I want to keep her warm as long as possible. And I got to the soup kitchen. The verse was already written on the board. There's a dry erase board. And the verse said, 2 are better than 1 because they have a good return for their labor. If either one falls down, if either falls down, one can help the other up. So this is about 2 being better than 1. And this is something I noticed later. Maybe it's just like a thought that I have and it's not reality. But this was Ecclesiastes 4, verse 9 and 10. So chapter 4, verses 9 and 10. Dogs are making noise. Okay. So I went to the soup kitchen. They cursed me this way. This is a trick they have figured out works if you don't pay close attention. Is that they have cups that are empty and upside down. So if you need to get water or coffee, you go and grab a cup. Well, they had hairs on some of these cups. Just little hairs. But when you pick that cup up, even if you don't touch the hair, pick up the styrofoam cup and it's got hair on it. Then you receive the curse for taking a gift or a cursed item. Well, I saw a cup with a hair on it, and I picked a different one. When I sat down, it had very, very fine, small hairs or something on it. You could hardly see them. And I noticed this because I was cursed. My cup, I put coffee in it, and then there was ring of coffee around the bottom, and then I picked it up, and I was moving it, and there was a leak in my cup. It was a slow leak, but it was still making a mess. And then I looked at the cup and noticed that there were 2 little like threads, or they could have been little hairs. This was put on the cup, so my curse was not very big deal. The cup was leaking, but it was so slow, I still got to drink most of the coffee, and there was plenty of coffee left. But I did get that curse. So one of the older men, who I believe is 71, maybe I'm wrong, he came in. I showed up late, like with 20 minutes left until the soup kitchen closed. So he came and sat down, and it was less than 5 minutes before the soup kitchen closed. And he got his plate real quick and sat next to me. Well, he was a seat over, but he was next to me. And I know that he was sent by the kingdom of darkness to try to talk to me or curse me or go on a date with me or something. Now, he's not really I think he knows it's not going to work, but he is sent to do this and has to do it. So when I start biking, people watch. They spy on me. So they were notified when I started biking. They had like 10, 15 minutes um, before I made it to the soup kitchen. And then they alerted him. So once they knew I was heading to the soup kitchen, they told him, and he had to walk. So if I time out where he lived and walking, as soon as I left, they contacted him, and then he started walking to the soup kitchen. That's what, because it took him 15 more minutes. So it took him like a half hour to get there, and it took me like 15 minutes. So that's what I'm saying. They were spying on me. As soon as I left, they must have called him or texted him and said, "Go to the soup kitchen. She's going there." I'm just gonna say, because then he comes and sits like kind of right next to me, like one more seat. So 2 seats down from me, right next to me. Nobody does this unless it's a mission. Like, people try to stay away, honestly, but then they come and try to attack me. So, well, there's a few that like me, but they're only allowed to come and sit next to me when God allows. And I actually initiated a conversation about, like, with him. Like, it wasn't much, but I said, you only have a few minutes, less than 5 minutes. And he got a full plate of food, and he hardly ate any of it. He just picked at it. He ate a little bit and left most of it. And then he asked one of the volunteers there, or the staff, for a container, and they brought him a brand new plate and a big piece of foil. And I noticed he got good service. They usually don't want to give me anything. Like yesterday, they just like ripped off a little scrap piece of plastic from one of their serving dishes that had food residue on it. They didn't want to give me anything. But him, they brought out a brand new plate and a big piece of foil. So this could have also been a reward for doing his mission, walking all the way to the soup kitchen when he probably already had his lunch. He had probably just eaten, and so that's why he showed up and wasn't hungry. But then he left. And actually, he asked for a loaf of bread, and they also gave him a loaf of bread, too. So they must have known. Like, I don't see most people asking, but I guess some do. So either I get really bad service, or he was getting rewarded for walking a half hour to the soup kitchen because they told him to. Anyways, he left shortly after. And then another man, a man who I can't really understand what he says. I thought he might be crazy, but maybe he has some type of, I think that he is, but I don't know, because it's really demonic possession. But I was sitting kind of close to where the water dispenser is, and then he stood next to the water dispenser and was talking and making loud noises, and it smelled like he had peed his pants. So they send people to do this to ruin my food. I had like half my food left, my coffee, my drink, and so he kept like making noises and had peed his pants. So I just sat there and I wrote some stuff down, and I took my time, and I did not eat or drink. And he did this for like 5 minutes or so, and then he went to the line right behind me, and then I could smell. And so this is not to be mean to anyone, but they send these people to attack. And the attack, sometimes the attack is urinating or defecating so that it ruins somebody's meal. Like when you're trying to eat, they use the bathroom in their pants and then come near you. This is an attack the enemy has done many times. But he did eventually leave. Anyways, let's see here. Also, when I went in, there's a secondary table where they put fried foods, and then there was a couple of volunteers there, and I walked past them and said, "I'll be right back." I said, "I'll be back." And then I went through the line, got my regular food, and this was like less than a minute, I believe. And then I came back to that table. They're usually there and don't leave. And then no one was there. And then I waited there for like a minute, and then a different volunteer came up and got me some, and that was nice. But actually, I wasn't sure what they said was turkey. I think it was turkey, but it might have been pork. I mean, I do believe it was turkey. They told me it was more than once, but they have lied to me before. So then, and I tasted it, and I'm like, I'm not really sure. I'm gonna just, I'm gonna like cast out, in case there's any spirits in here, I'm gonna reject and rebuke them. Because maybe they were lying to me this whole time, and that was pork. They said it was turkey. It looked kind of like turkey, but today it might have been different. And it could have been a different meat. Maybe this time they fried pork, and then they were gone, so I couldn't ask them what it was. I don't know, but I didn't eat all of that. I didn't eat all of my food today. I left like the bread and some of the salad. If the salad starts to get wilty or I don't know. I normally really like the salad, but I just didn't really feel like it. And then I tasted some of the meat, and I thought it might be pork. And I'd had a similar type of meat to this many times, and they told me it was turkey, and I believed them, but maybe it wasn't. Now that I'm thinking, maybe it wasn't. I don't know. Anyways, okay. I'm trying to read my own handwriting. There's some volunteers that come in regularly, and some of them look at me strange. I don't know what, like, it seems like they don't like me, but maybe it's not quite that. I don't know. And then I saw this person again, and a walker, and they just kind of stare, and I don't know. I think they're trying to get me, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're just, I don't know. Maybe they're not. Maybe they're kind of in the middle. Like, just because they're not for me doesn't mean they're necessarily, yeah, I don't know, but they all curse me. I really don't, I can't say for sure. My thought would be maybe an enemy or someone that's apprehensive, that, or somebody that is ready to be flipped. I don't know. So this is my opinion. Is right now I think maybe an enemy, but I don't know if this person has attacked me. Maybe they have. Maybe they're a good person. Maybe they're a lukewarm. I really don't know. But it's not someone that really likes me. It's not someone that would embrace me, that would want to help. But that doesn't mean they're a bad person. I think maybe it means that they have been taught some religious lies and might be willing to repent and change. Um, Anyways, this little soda here I got from a seminar last night. I put some in my bag and left. And I'm not going to show you the brand, as I'm sure you already know what kind of green sodas, what kind of green pops there are. But if you can make it out, the amount of calories there is a 17. It's a 17, 170 calories. This is 17. I'm waiting for my restorations. Things have just gotten worse and worse, and things have gotten worse and worse for me. But there are little victories and then bigger losses. But I trust God. I do trust God. Every day I trust God. But it's like, oh, it was really cold. I kept waking up. I could hardly sleep. I couldn't get warm. Then I go get a solution. Then the woman at the soup kitchen is like, that's going to get up to 60 degrees today. Yeah, so I didn't really need the electric blanket I just spent $32 on yesterday. Well, I've already used it. Now it has dog hairs on it. So I'm going to use it again tonight. Even though I really wouldn't need it tonight, I would be more comfortable with it tonight. So I guess my comfort for one night is worth $32.02, because that's how much it was. $32.02. My comfort for one night, that I wasn't perfectly comfortable, but it was tolerable. It was tolerable. So praise the Lord. They've given me some money when I got baptized recently. So. Good night, Reese. Um, Somebody sprayed my dog with skunk spray. He still smells bad. Um, that's another thing. I can't even stay warm cuddling with my Saint Bernard. because he has been sprayed with skunk spray. And also, I've got a love seat couch. It is smaller. My couch is smaller than a regular couch. It is too short for me, and I can barely fit my smallest dog on there with me. But if I did decide to lay on the floor or something, I might be able to stay warm with my St. Bernard. Now, somebody has sprayed skunk spray on him, so the smell is not good. And also the hairs are everywhere. It's too much hair. But like if I really had to, I could vacuum right before and then lay next to him. But no, somebody has sprayed him. It's a really disgusting smell. It actually smells kind of like death, like a rotting dead animal is what this smell reminds me of, and a little bit like feces. So no, I cannot cuddle with him to stay warm. This is what God has allowed, because I have to suffer and be uncomfortable. Just like um, God's followers, Christ's army, they have to suffer. We have to suffer. And like the prophets before walked through the desert, and they were hot and they were cold and they hungered and they thirsted and they went without, we have to as well. And yes, we can suffer in a modern society. In 2026, we can suffer and we can feel just as disappointed, just as exhausted, just as hot, and just as cold. And it's actually quite easy if you think about it, because they used to have a lot of tree cover, and houses were built differently. So actually, the way homes are built today, and they clear out the trees, it can get hotter and it can get colder. Anyways, what am I even talking about here? So, anyways, after I ate, I stayed at the soup kitchen because I overheard one of the men there. He was talking about not having heat. He was talking real loud. So I knew, as he kept talking about this, it was an invitation to go sit next to them and join in this conversation. He was talking to a woman I had saw go to a different soup kitchen, and another woman who was homeless. And apparently he has a huge house, a huge property. The government has turned off his power because somebody built something not to code. And he really did not like the government. Now, I can completely understand this. I can completely understand overreach. At the same time, they do want people to be safe. They want people to be safe and not have their houses catch on fire. I understand that. But apparently it's been 12 years he has not had electricity in his house. And he really does not like the government. He's trying to convince someone who's got a really bad landlord. He's trying to convince them to get a tiny house or just to or get a camper. And she could do it. But at the same time, maybe he could do something about his situation to get his power turned back on. And I agree, the government has been corrupt and had been taken over. But I think they're fixing it now. I think they should help people instead of turning the power off all the way. Maybe make some type of send contractors like something like really cheap where they can fix it and get it up to code, and then they charge a really low rate. It's like at cost. And then it's this long loan, and you can pay it back. I don't know what the solution is, but the solution is not to cut off the power in somebody's home. And the solution isn't just to do it for free either. So I don't know what the solution is, but it would be better to just fix people's homes than to deny them power. At the same time, though, there is cost involved. So maybe just having a reasonable cost and then allowing them to pay it over time and getting that power on as soon as possible. Helping people that can't qualify for loans. And then they get a government loan. I don't know, because this isn't necessarily perfect, but it's a lot better than the current solution. Anyways, yeah, I talked to them quite a bit. There's a woman, she lives under a bridge. They have to carry a lot of things, blankets and walkers and all their stuff and animals. And she's old too, so whenever they get kicked out of some place, they have to pack all their stuff up and move it and find somewhere else to go. Now, they shouldn't be sleeping outside on public property. This isn't right. I don't think this is right. So I think the solution might be something more like homeless shelters don't allow you to have dogs. So if there was some place, like if the dog is, like can have cages, but if some place people can bring their animals, like a shelter you can bring your animals. I also hear many other things about the shelters. I heard the shelters have bed bugs. I hear the shelters allow pedophiles. I hear the shelters don't allow married couples to stay together. No, beggars can't be choosers, but married couples should not be split up. That is wrong. Now, they should have a marriage license to prove that they are married, yes. But to lose your animals, that's why I have to be in a home, because I would never lose my dogs. And there's no place to take in a dog, let alone these 3 wild animals here. I do understand that. So, once again, I don't know what the solution is. But we should not have elderly people living on the street. Living under a bridge is wrong. There should be shelters that allow married couples to stay together. There should be shelters that do not allow pedophiles. And there should be shelters that have like cages like for animals. And those animals have to be in the cage. But it is a way so people don't freeze to death outside. And they also end up taking over the parks and things so that children can't really use the parks. Not that they're using them when it's 10 degrees outside, but I'm not saying I know what the perfect solution is, but I can say clearly that I can think of several solutions that are better than what is currently being done. That does not mean I know the perfect solution. Someone else out there maybe knows something better than I can think of, but I do know that there is a need. We can't have people living in the parks, living outside. Maybe there could be a piece of land set aside so homeless people can't live in the public parks, but then there could be a separate piece of land set aside to where if the homeless people want to stay in a tent area, they can stay in that area. Maybe that is a solution. Because right now the parks are being taken over, and that's not right. So maybe setting aside like a separate piece of land, like next to the park where the homeless people stay, that would be fine. Because some of them, they don't want the rules. Like, I gotta come in at this time. Yeah, so like a homeless park. A homeless park next to the regular park. Maybe that would be an easy solution. Because apparently they're already outside. And they have a concern of the police coming and kicking them out. And they gotta move everything. And if they have any shelter set up, then they gotta take it down and set it back up. And then a man had come in later, and I remember seeing this man before. I think he offered to go out to take me out to eat, and then right after that, another woman, and I'm like, no, I don't. And then another woman, and she did not decline. So the deal is you go out to eat, and then you hang out. But anyways, he didn't seem like a bad guy, but clearly he was on drugs, and he was really upset, and he had come in. So he's not threatening or anything like that. He's had a rough childhood. He was put in the foster care system and abused, and he does drugs. But basically something just happened. Like, he was in prison for 22 years, I think. And then he was out. And then had just gotten arrested again. Was really worried about going back to prison. Apparently the officers came towards him and he ran away because he said he did not know they were police. But then once they identified themselves as police, then he stopped. And he threw his marijuana pipe. But I think he said there was something else in it. Maybe there wasn't anything else. Maybe it was just marijuana. I don't know. But anyways, they did not have the proof to send him to prison for this. And the thing is that it doesn't look like he's out hurting anyone else. It really doesn't. And he doesn't look like a bad man. He looks like a very hurt man. And he has tried to kill himself. He showed me this at the end. He tried to poison himself, but he poisoned himself with the wrong thing first, and that coated his stomach so that the drugs that would have killed him did not. It's like, that is divine intervention. And then his wrists had scars on him from when he tried to kill himself too. But he had just been arrested, and he got the papers out, and he showed me and the other woman, and you know, like, and I told him, and she was involved too, like, you know, this is going to get thrown out. But apparently he had made a pledge to God that if he didn't go to prison, he was going to start going to church. So it looks like he's going to start going. He said he already made plans to go to church. It looks like he's going to start going to church now. And I said, it looks like you can get away with this one. Like, looks like this will get thrown out, but you can't do it again. Next time they'll get you. But I also tried to encourage him, like, that God's gonna bless him, and even though he's like 50 or something, God's gonna bless him. Like I said, this is something I heard from someone else, and I've used it. Like I go places, they teach me things, and I remember it, and then I go someplace else, and then I say that thing I heard. So they said, if it's not good, God's not done yet. So then he's saying like he tried to kill himself, and like he's already this old, and I said, no, if your life's not good, God's not done yet. It's like it's not done until it's good. You're not allowed to go. And I was telling him like everything he had suffered, God's gonna bless him. So at least double for his trouble. Like every bad thing he's gone through, he's gonna be blessed. And I think I encouraged him a little bit. But there was another woman there, and she stayed with him longer and talked to him more, and that was good. And I did leave. I went to my booth, and then I had been like at the soup kitchen late, so there was like an hour until dinner now. And so I biked down to this one center to see if they had anyone, if anyone was there, if they had any groups going on. And by the time I got there, it's like the people that were there had just left. But I showed up and I saw a man there, and this is a man. I believe he is a member of the coven. And if you remember and watch my videos, you might remember me saying about the medicine man who I saw recently wandering around like a zombie at the soup kitchen, like he was defeated, like something bad happened to him. He was like I don't know, this not good. But this man sat with him, and they seemed to be friends, but they were not together. The last time I saw him, they were not together. And now I saw this other man, the younger one. And I went to the center, and then there's like a little seat, like a little bench outside near where I parked my bike. And I saw him, and then I locked my bike and I went towards him. And then I just talked to him like a couple sentences, and he wasn't trying to engage or anything. He was kind of faced the other way, and I said, "Hello, how are you doing?" And he was like saying not good, and just trying to find something to do. But he was like depressed, and he looked kind of like not like just a little grumpy and a little sad, like he was bored, and he was just unhappy, and there wasn't anything to do. And so I told him that they rescheduled the cornhole for tomorrow. And like I mentioned something, oh, they get these groups to the library. He's like, nah. So we got cornhole here tomorrow, so maybe he'll show up for that. Maybe not. I don't know. But he wasn't happy. He was not doing well. This is possibly someone that can be saved, but was a Satanist. They get them when they're young. And if they're in the coven for 20 years, like, maybe your mentality has changed after 20 years. And they see this group has been destroyed because they could not destroy me. I don't know. But anyways, I went in there to use their bathroom because my plumbing was frozen. I guess it's okay, but like, I could have run out of things, and I wanted to just be safe and not use my toilet as much because I don't have any heat in my house right now. So I stopped in there, used the bathroom, and then I left. And when I left, my bike tire had been popped immediately as soon as I roll out. So this was not good. And then I would assume that this man that was sitting out on the bench was the one who had done it, because he was an enemy and he was involved with the medicine man who sent a serial killer after me. They were all involved. But actually, he might not have had anything to do with it at all. It might not have been him. Because when I went back in, there was a woman outside painting the door, and I talked to her, and she's like, they're almost done with their meeting. And then you can tell them, like, I said, they got a camera out here because what happened to my bike? And then, someone got the pedal out here a few weeks ago. So then I go in, and I mention it, and they're like, oh, but we're not allowed, the people upstairs, we're not allowed to review the footage. And then, like, the boss guy comes by as I'm standing there. And then I tell him about my bike. Someone just popped my tire. And he said, oh, we have to submit a request in order to see the footage, to see who did that to your bike. I guess I could have called the cops, but at that point, it was time for dinner. I wasn't going to do it. Because Like, for me to be obedient to God, it's what comes easy. For me to go out of my way to go to the police and then come back, they'd probably be closed at that point. I don't have a phone. So it would have ruined the rest of the day and I would not have gotten dinner. So it's not even that. It's like, I know that I wasn't supposed to pursue it because I allow people to do what they're going to do and then they get judgment. Like, then they get karma. So anyways, the people in the office were like, it was just their word, and they said, and it could be no one did it at all, and like, oh yeah, well, we can send a request up, and who knows how long that's gonna take. Yeah, right. This guy was the boss there. He could have went up and looked at it right away if he wanted. But anyways, I said yeah, and I told him the time and the date, and 2 times now somebody has messed with my bike, and I said if this keeps happening, I won't be able to come here because this I don't have a car. This is my transportation. This is the 2nd time now someone has damaged my bicycle. They seemed like they did not want to look at the footage and weren't going to let me see it either. And then the one man, and the manager there, he was also like, and it's also possible no one did anything at all. So I'm kind of thinking that, like, yes, that man who was a warlock, he was sitting outside and he did try to get me before. But maybe he just went inside, because he was outside and my bike was there. But it's also possible that the managers at this center did that, because there are disbelievers and Satanists there. Especially the man that runs these groups. He has been involved in trying to get me before. So they might have actually done this, because they don't want me to go to their center. Anyways, then I had to walk to the soup kitchen. People were probably like upset because, well, let's see what's going on here. Yeah. Oh. Because I'm starting to, like, I'm getting along with it. I know they're still trying to get me, but, like, I'm kind of getting along with these people that were sent to get me. I say things that maybe help them. I don't know. So they maybe want to shut this down. I could be wrong. This is what I think. And sometimes, like, I don't quite understand. Like, if I haven't seen something before, I don't quite understand exactly what it is. So, anyways, my bike tire was popped, and I start walking, and it rolls, but it's kind of difficult to roll. Like, usually when my tire gets popped, I can still either get on it if I need to, or roll it, and it still rolls. No, this time it was kind of, like, it would go around, and then it would drag a little bit. And it'd go around, and then it drag. So it wasn't as easy. I'm like, to get this to the place to fix it's going to be kind of difficult. And I had prayed that morning for God to order my steps. I do this quite a lot, for God to order my steps. So I know that what I did was divinely orchestrated. And then I keep going, and all of a sudden the tire, like, it stops rolling, and it just, like, I don't want to say seized, but, like, the tire was flat. And it was going around, and then there was a part of it where it would rub on the ground and be hard to roll. But then it'd go back around. Then it just stopped going around, and it just started rubbing. To where I had to lift up the back tire to walk it. So it wasn't going to roll smoothly. I wasn't going to be able to walk this back like I did the other bikes. And this happened right next to the YMCA. It was right there next to the YMCA parking lot. This was God. Because had I left it at that center, for people with mental and behavioral health problems, they probably would have chopped my bike up into pieces, took off the wheels, and demolished it. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But I don't imagine anything good would have happened had I left it there. And had I taken my bike to the soup kitchen, probably the same thing. It's not safe to leave the bike at the soup kitchen overnight. It's not safe to leave the bike at the behavioral health place either. But I started rolling it. It was more difficult than usual, and then it just stopped. The tire stopped turning, and it was right in front of the YMCA. I'm like, oh, and then I was right in front of the YMCA. Like, this is not likely to happen. This is divine orchestration. So then I just turn, and I'm like, there's a bike rack right by the door. And so, like, I'd lift up the back, and then I end up just picking up the bike and carrying it. And a guy sees me carry it and sit it on the rack, and then he goes in. So maybe this is God, too, because if it stays there overnight, If it stays there overnight, then they might try to do something. But if this man saw me picking the bike up and carrying it and then locking it and he went in, he might tell somebody. Or they might ask and he happens to be there. Praise the Lord. I don't know. I trust God because you're probably not supposed to leave it there overnight. But if he saw I had to carry it and it wasn't working, then people do see me around. I'm the cyclist that's on the road every day. So anyways, then I go to the soup kitchen. Some people are, I don't know if they're a little upset or they know something's wrong. The veteran man there, he knew something was wrong because I came in without my bike, so he knew. No, I was just a little unhappy at this point, and so I did mention something to the volunteer with the long blonde hair. He was so nice, and he offered to. He was going to take. He took me home, and then he also took me to a meeting this evening. So it was very nice of him to do. They probably have ulterior motives. I don't know, but maybe they kind of like me. I think they kind of don't, but they kind of do. So it's strange. But anyways, they were sent to get me, but I think God's working on it. Anyways, I go to the soup kitchen and then I sit down next to the woman who is the friend of this volunteer, and she doesn't like me, but then sometimes she does. It's so weird. She wished she was there with another man, and I don't know if they're dating, if this is a friend or someone else. And then he shakes my hand, saying hello, and I told him about my bike. He's like, why would somebody do that? And I said, because I believe in God. And he understood right away. He seemed like a nice man, but I don't know. I don't know. But then after I sat there for a minute, then they got up and moved, and she moved all the way to the back. So then I was just sitting by myself again. That's okay. Oh, when I went through the line, like it was taco, like it was chips with taco stuff on it, and they just gave me a tiny little bit of sour cream and not very much cheese. I think, and then they gave me wilty lettuce, so they gave me less than other people. I think it wasn't as good. This happens to me sometimes. You know, maybe it's in my head, but I don't think so. Cause like the sour cream on the spoon was such a small amount, and they had a big container. It was a lot, so I think that had to be on purpose. But that's okay. I had more than enough, anyways. So they dropped me off at home. Um, I talked to this man gave other people a ride too, and I got to talk to them. And like this one person that I talked to, she was explaining to me how she used to be a bully, and people would make fun of her when she was a kid, and then so she would beat him up. She would beat him up all the time, and then when she saw him again when she was grown up, she apologized, and she felt really good to apologize, and it was fine. But she said because she didn't have love, then she treated other people, or she was jealous because she thought their situation was better than hers. She was jealous, so she would beat him up. And then now she does, and then now she apologized and doesn't do that. But that was good. Like just admitting to me, and that's growth. Like it's used to be a sinner, and then had repented and reformed, and that's a good thing. Because I thought this was a good person, but see, I just have a little bit of my my note. I put it on this. It's like my last page in here. Um, okay, so there was another meeting. There was another meeting like an hour and a half later, which I got picked up for. This meeting is like a half mile from my house. But I got a ride. I did not want to walk there. Um, One of the people has been hugging me. That I'm not saying anything personal about people's private lives. I say only in these meetings. I only say the personal, the attacks on me, and the tricks. Nothing about the secret information like that, but the attacks on me and the tricks. So in this meeting, I noticed one of the first people to speak um, mentioned two numbers. They mentioned 22 years, so there's a 22. And they also mentioned 2025. 2 plus 5 is 7. So I'm not going to say what, and I'm not going to say why, and I really don't remember off the top of my head anyways. But there was numbers, which meant I was supposed to hear this. It was important somehow. It was destined. And actually, the volunteer at the soup kitchen, when I told him about my bike, he offered me a ride home, and he said, oh, and about the meeting too. So then he invited me to the meeting to make sure I was supposed to go. I was supposed to go. He confirmed that again. So then another man there, I gave him a hug first, and now he's giving me hugs every time he sees me. And then other people are mentioned things about boundaries and touching you when you don't want touched. But I hugged him first, and now he's like, oh, hugs every time. And I think they're trying to say that to me. But I think they're sending him like to try to get me. Like I don't know. I really don't know, because he seemed like he liked me and wanted to talk more, but he invited me to church and then wasn't there, so then I went to a different one. So I really don't know what's going on. But it was something weird, like during this meeting, he mentioned something like he was a millionaire, and I think this is a lie. But I'm saying he said, I'm a millionaire. He said, I'm a millionaire now. And this could have been like symbolic, because I don't think he is. Because it could have been symbolic, like, because he's doing better now than he used to be. But I think this was said so I would overhear it and then chase after him. So that I would hear that and be like, oh, you're a millionaire. Come solve my problems. Fix my house. I don't think he's a millionaire. But even if he was, I'm not going to do that. I don't judge people based on how much money they have. And I don't treat them differently based on how much money they have. So I just kind of ignored it. And then also, he usually tries to talk to me. This time he said, I'm a millionaire. And then he left at the end without saying anything to me. And this was on purpose. Because, see, when people are sent for me, I can tell. I can tell. Like, you could probably tell, too. And so I wasn't going to chase after him. And I'm not going to treat you any better or worse, even if you have $1 million. I'm not going to treat you differently. But see, this was the trick of the enemy, to make me feel like, oh, drats, I should have chased after him before because he was a millionaire. No, I was polite to him, but, just the same as I would be to anyone else. I'm not going to spend all my time with one person. I try to talk to everybody when it's appropriate. Anyways, but if he's sent in to try to get me, then he's being used as a pawn. But then they send him to me, and I talk to him. And there are good in these people too. Let's see. I noticed another thing during the meeting as they were using witchcraft. As I told them, I am not a lesbian. I am not a lesbian. And they had used some witchcraft. And there was a young woman there, and she was going to leave for a while. There's a young woman there. And then she was talking, and while she was talking, she took off her jacket, and she had this tight, like, tank top underneath, and it was, like, tight over her chest area. And then I kind of look away a little bit, and then they use magic too, and I'm like, And then I know this was an attack. And then, I don't know, like 5 minutes later or something, there was another person, like the volunteer was sitting there, and then he came and sat like 2 seats down from me, like after I sat down. Like he went to the bathroom, and then he came sat down near me. And then she was over there, and I'm not saying what her name was, and I'm not saying what she was talking about, and I'm not saying if she had a problem or anything. But while she was talking, she took off her outer jacket and just had a tight tank top on. It's not very warm today, but and she had a bra on to make her chest look larger. And then a few minutes later, she came and sat right next to me, between me and this other man. And they were trying to use the magic. I am not a lesbian. Okay? And you're not, like, you can send all the men you want. You can send all the women you want. I am not available. But anyways, and I kind of ignored it. And then there's another attack they do sometimes. And then, like, there was another person that started going. They weren't there the whole time. They've been to a few meetings. They've been to a couple. And then this time, their wife came, and he mentioned he was married. And then his wife came in like 10 minutes later or something, and came and sat down with a stroller and a baby. with the stroller into baby. This was another attack, and they watched me like it wasn't obvious, but they do things like that. They send lesbians that first they send men. They send plenty of men first, and I have to decline them politely. Then they send lesbians, and I have to decline them as well. And then they also occasionally bring in. This is not something that happens very often because children, like, you got to protect them, and But anyways, then they brought in a stroller with the baby, and who's holding the baby, and so they want me to see this and to be sad because I am alone and I don't have any friends or family. I don't know if I, well, maybe there are some people that would be friends once they are freed from the demons. They might be like in bondage now and eventual friends, but right now I don't know. I don't think so. But anyways, they try to get me, like, sometimes they put like little children or babies there and like see if I'm getting upset and see, and they did this at the soup kitchen before, but I'm not a crier and I'm okay to be alone. And actually, like, my problems I have are not things I'm going to say on here, but that's okay. That's okay. I would like there to be heat in my house, and I would like my house to be clean. I would like my dogs to be clean and smell good, and to have a working vehicle. I would like to have my debts paid off. I would like to have my home repaired. All the things that I tried to do that I paid to have done, I would have liked for them to be done. The family that I invested my time and energy into, it would have been nice if they weren't enemies, but it is what it is, and I'm not going to go and cry about it. Anyways, this is nothing personal, like, not about anyone's stories. This is about the attacks that they do, because they bring in babies sometimes. Not very often. It's hard for them to bring in children and babies, but sometimes they do, and it's to see if I get sad. Like Mitch, I'm a millionaire. Because but I did offer to go to the church with him, but he didn't pick me up like he said. So anyways, this was supposed to be a platonic thing, but I'm not going to treat you differently. And then he ran away after he said he was a millionaire. It's like, that's supposed to make me sad. It doesn't make me sad. It's like they are sent to come after me, and maybe they actually like me. And I mean, like, as a friend or as a person. I'm not even saying like romantically. Maybe they actually like me, but they are sent to do a certain mission, and so God uses all things for good. Go back to that verse at the soup kitchen in the beginning. The verse today was Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verses 9 and 10. Two are better than one because they have a good return for their labor. If either falls down, one can help the other up. Yes, this is a good verse. And at the soup kitchen this evening, so there was a woman there the other day, like yesterday, there was a woman there I've never seen before. She lived in California, and she used to, I don't know if she used to live here. And then she came back for family matters. And she had a little dog on her lap, and she had her spoon. She was feeding her dog, and then I think she was eating on her spoon and then feeding her dog. But the dog had a little outfit on. And I asked if I could pet it, and she didn't. And she kind of said, yeah. And then I reached, and she acted like it was going to growl or something. And said, see? And the dog was fine. The dog had no problem. But she seemed like a nice woman, but this was her baby. This was her baby. And I think she named her dog like Mary Antoinette or something. Not Mary. No, like Queen Anne, or she named her dog a name like that. Or Aunt Audrey Hepburn. Miss Audrey Hepburn. She had this little dog on her lap. Now, this is an old woman. Now, she is beautiful, but she is an old woman. She has come from California to my small town in Ohio. Apparently, she used to come here decades ago or something. And she's got this dog on her lap, and it says service animal on its shirt, and she's feeding it on the spoon. She's feeding it her food that she got at the soup kitchen off of her tray. But anyways, I talked to her a bit yesterday, and she seemed like nice, but like, loving treating the dog a little bit too much like a baby, but she seemed like a nice woman. And then she was in there again today. And there was an older man in there, an older man who I thought was a nice man. And he actually is saying how pigs were disgusting and that he didn't want to eat pork. So, but he seems like a nice person. I don't think he has ever tried to attack me like all of the others have. I don't think he has tried to attack me. So this seems like a nice man who keeps to himself. In this day, then this old woman was in there visiting, and she had her dog, and then he went up and they were talking quite a while, and he's like, "You're gonna be back tomorrow." And yeah. So then I thought of this little verse here because it looked, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think so. This old man comes in by himself. He is probably single, and this old woman, she was there by herself. So I was just thinking, like maybe I was thinking maybe they were gonna go on a date or something, like have their date at the soup kitchen tomorrow. I don't know. I don't know. Or wait, what is Oh yes, tomorrow is Friday. So they had that verse today. Two is better than one. And then I've never seen this. And the old man who usually keeps to himself, there was this old woman there, who's a cute old woman with her dog on her lap. And then they're talking a long time. Like this is like 5-10 minutes. Just he's standing up. They're talking to each other and like, oh, you're gonna be here tomorrow. And I looked a little bit and I smiled at it. It looked like a date. So, but no, I am not going to accept any dates from these Satanists and counterfeits. But that actually looked like it, if God brings somebody in from California to Ohio and then they're talking, this is, I don't know, it just looked like, maybe a destined meeting. So anyways, after this, they dropped me off and, I'm going to finish my 170 calorie soda here and probably go to bed. And when God allows things like this to happen to my bike, there's always a reason. And I know it's uncomfortable. I have plans. I've got things to do. But usually I end up like doing like what I was supposed to do. So instead of just being comfortable and like going to the soup kitchen, going to the church, going to the gym, now I don't know what's going to happen. And I have to try to get rides and see what happens. So, anyways. I'll probably make another video in a few days. My life maybe will, like, I'll have different plans this weekend. I will do different things than I would have if I had my bicycle. Thanks for watching. God bless you.